or whatever platform you're on, come along, put some comments. You can interact with my host, with my guest today. And my guest, let me, without further ado, introduce my guest. Am I so excited I don't get to connect with this guy as often as I used to, but when I do, we have an absolute blast. So today, I get to share that experience with you. So let me introduce you to my guest today from this episode. It is the most amazing individual called Scott Rankin. Now, Scott Rankin is a super successful business owner, entrepreneur, service leader, just an all-round cool dude, and you'll get to know about he's got a bit of a crazy humor that you're going to love about him. But let me keep telling you a little bit about what he's achieved, and then we'll get into and connect to him. So he's been at Vulcan Springs. It's an amazing company that creates, when we say springs, the most tiniest springs in the most medical equipment and so on. He'll talk more about that in a second, but he's been there since 1983 and he's been the president of that company since 1989. He's on many boards. Let me give you a list of some of those. He's the chairman of the board of the Walnut Street Theatre in Philadelphia, and I have been there, watched the show with him. But these guys, both Scott and his amazing wife Sharon, they're going to be taking that theatre into the next generation. Now, also, let's see, he's also on the board of the Philadelphia Zoo. I just want you to get an idea, a flavour of the scope of service and how he and his wife make a difference and keep adding value to other people's lives. What else? Let's keep working here. Here we go. First, robotics. And I tell you what, when I found out that Scott and Sharon were involved, it's amazing. For someone in the UK, we don't have all those robotic stuff, right? But these guys are really at the forefront of it. And why do they do it? Because it gets school children to be able to get involved with science, building robots, life skills, business, and most importantly for all of us, it's about helping their community. They've also been involved with 4 orphanages around the world, and some of them totally hands-on. And as we go through all of these things on here, these are type of companies and organizations and charities and not-for-profits that Scott and Sharon support. Chosen 300 serves homeless people, giving them food and shelter and so on. Now, let me get the others. Here we go, technology. WXPN and World Cafe, live in Philly. Here we go. Let's do it straight from here, guys, so you can actually see what we've got here. He's also involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Philadelphia, the Christian Legal Clinics of Philadelphia, and then one place where he and I really got together and, just became brothers in that moment. It's GYLS, the Global Youth Leadership Anthony Robbins Foundation. He was the coordinator and a speaker at the event, and he's also been over at our Harry Singha Foundation Youth Leadership Summits, right? So I've known the guy now for 2 decades, absolute beautiful soul, but I couldn't leave his introduction without letting you guys know what is he about. His mission is to give more than he takes from this world, and at the moment I can let you know he's winning. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Here we go. Let's punch a button and see if he's there. Scott, you're there. Brilliant. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for taking. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day all the way over there in Philadelphia. And we share many passions, and one of our biggest passions is empowering you. So I've given the viewers. Okay, we've got someone already. Lauren Ward is shouting hi, Harry, and so on, right? So I've given the viewers a flavor of what you've done, what you've achieved, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. But if you could give everybody a little bit about your journey, what got you here, and then we can talk about some of the amazing magic moments that you've had when it comes to serving young people. And then, like we always do, let's leave the young people that are watching and those who work and serve with young people something powerful, something they can use direct from the mouth of Scott Rankin. So please share a bit about your journey, brother.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on. And that list that you came up with, I'm exhausted just looking at it. So,
it's all I could fit in the page.
I gotta either get a shorter list or something here. But interesting. With Vulcan Spring, which is my company, the reason for Vulcan Spring is to allow all those other things on the list to happen. Although we did just land on Mars with the new Mars rover that just landed last week. So we're kind of cool. That's got a whole bunch of our springs in it to make things happen. So, we've got some pretty cool things happening there, we think. But that's what they're telling us.
You have.
But you go from there, and the reason for Vulcan is it gives me the freedom to do whatever I need as far as other areas. And so if we move into an area like the Walnut Street Theater, it's the oldest theater in the United States, which probably would make it the youngest theater in London, but it's the oldest that we've got, and constantly running theater. But what drew me towards it was the teaching that we do for kids and students in schools, and how we reach out to those. We have touring outreach companies that go out to these schools that we put in place so that they're actually getting a feel for what the theater's like without having to have that arts part in their schools, which we're lacking. And so, that was my reason for being a part of it. And then apparently if you do something really well, they make you chairman. So that's what I get to do in there, and trying to move that into the next generation and grow the theater with new buildings, but new programs basically for kids. My feeling is, Harry, it's great to do things for the adults, but if we don't get to, the youth, it's not going to keep going. You're just going to end up at a dead end, and we can't have that happen. No. So we do that. The other things that we do, so within the theater, we now have this program that you can log on to, and you can see the Walnut Street Theater, and you can get the actors actually teach you how to sing and how to dance and actually how to act on YouTube channels during the day. So some of them are really crazy. I mean, some of these people are half out of their mind, I think, but they have so much fun, and they're a great outreach to kids and adults, actually. But then, we've got the other things that we get into. The radio station that we do, for instance, which is WXPN, is another one that's teaching kids. And we're bringing the schools into the theater that we have there and putting the best musicians that we have in the city, actually in the country. And they're teaching these kids how to enjoy music and play musical instruments and write their own songs. And it's great that we have an outlet that we can get to the schools and bring them to our place, and they get to get on stage, and they get to play our music and play with our lighting system and the sound system, and it turns them into their own little musicians. And then you teach them how to write a song. It's about their lives, and that one's another area that I think we're growing like crazy this year. It's a plus that happened from COVID, because we get to work with them either on Zoom meetings, and they still do come in small groups into our theater and do things, and we didn't have as much of that when we didn't have COVID.
But there's a blessing in all of these things, and I think the viewers are already getting the thread here that through your success in business, being able to take that and apply your philanthropy, as a philanthropist, it's the thread that we see is, whether it's a theatre, whether it's something else, you always seem to manage to find a way where you can go and do something for the kids, not just in the community, but wider. And COVID and more online platforms allow you to reach more people. And I really want you to talk about the other one where, the whole robotics thing and building robots, because I know you're all passionate about that. But give everybody a flavour of what that, because there's a global audience watching, right? I suppose everybody in the States know about all these robot wars and stuff, right? But how did you get into that? And then just give us a flavour of what goes on there.
You'd be surprised, Harry, because we've got teams from London, we've got teams from UK, we've got teams from all over the world that are in this first robotics that we do. And the whole idea of it is take kids from the lowest school, from elementary all the way up through high school. And you either start with Legos and you're building robots with Legos, and then we move into a little bit bigger. And then once you get into the high school ages, which are, the 15 through 18, it's big robots that weigh, quite a bit, and they don't go and kill each other. This isn't BattleBot, but they go and what's fun about this program is it's not about the robot. Yeah. The robot's a small part of it, but it's about working as a team to get something done, to find a solution to a problem, and then work together with somebody that you may never have worked with before. So in a regular competition that we have, you work with 2 other robots who you've never seen before, and we put you on the field against 3 other robots, and you compete for points, depending on the game that happened. But this started out with a school that actually my kids went to, which is how we all start as adults, is our kids go somewhere and we think once we drop them off at the bus, we're never going to see the school again. And we end up showing up, and they're building a robot in a hallway at the school. And I thought, first of all, robot's really cool. And why are they working in the hallway? And I found out the school had this amazing field house for sports, for beautiful fields outside, beautiful field house, 4 gyms in the place for, that were just state of the art, and no science building. So they came to my wife and I and said, we need to build a turf field because your daughter plays soccer or football, and she needs to play on a turf field. And we said, well, why don't we build a science building? And they said, no, turf field's more important. Said, well, we're going to build a science building. So if you want our money, take the science building, which we did. And we said a quarter of this building has to be dedicated to a robotics program.
Wow.
Which it is. Yeah. And it's actually more like half the building now. It's expanded so much, but it's a great program. And as I say, there's kids in the UK that are way into this thing in a big way, and they come and compete in the US, with us.
I believe you. There are people from all over the world, but they all seem to have to go to America to go and do this. And I had to find channels outside of our channels that we have here in the UK, and I watched the journey of some, there was a girls team, right? And all of these girls were very different. You had the goth one, you had the geeky one, and they were like, I don't hang out with these people. And suddenly their passion of robotics and doing something together just brought them alive. And it's just another way to, empower young people. You can, like you say, you have football, you can have soccer, you can have sports, you can have science, you can have literature, anything that allows people to feel challenged. And it's like, that's why it's such a blessing. So Scott, you and I have been involved in like youth leadership summits and things now for over 2 decades. And I want people to get a flavor of, first of all, why you do that, because it's insane why we do it. We always sometimes ask, why do we bother doing this, right? So why do you do it? And then maybe share a story, so a moving memory, a magic moment that you've had in that journey of working with young people in the youth leadership world.
Harry, I think when we started, I had hair. So.
Yeah, I remember.
Interesting again is why you get involved with something. Not, you can get brought in by somebody, but this one, I was working with the Robbins Foundation, Anthony Robbins Foundation, and you do a lot of things in a foundation. You're trying to help people constantly and do something great for somebody. And somebody once mentioned, they said, well, we do have this youth program, but don't worry about that because, we have to feed the homeless people and we have to take care of these, widows and orphans. And I said, whoa, go back to youth program. What's going on? What are we doing with that? And so I showed up the second year that they were doing it as a crew member. So I was going to be, the lowest of low. My job was to clean toilets and sweep the floor after everybody left. And it seemed things were running okay, and there was a lot of kids involved, but there was no real focus on how to get these kids to learn and take what they learn away from the place. You can teach all you want about leadership, but unless you set them up to take what they learn away and take it home with them, you've just kind of wasted your time. And Harry, I know that's your whole thing in life, is to give these everyone, not just youth, but everyone, a purpose and a reason, and then a map to take that with them outside. So I got involved with the youth program and started meeting some amazing people, yourself, and then of course the group that we get to hang out with, and some fantastic, lovely people with amazing sense of humor, which I think is what you need to work with youth. That everything's too serious anymore.
Yeah.
So I got there my first, not my first year, my second year there. I was a little more important than the guy that cleans the toilets, but I decided
still had to do it.
Yeah, I was sitting, and there was a girl sitting in a field. There was a group that they all came together, and she was sitting there by herself and kind of gothed out, and I hadn't seen a lot of goth in my time. They weren't in my circles, and she was sitting there by herself, and I went and sat next to her and didn't say anything. And she kind of was, you could tell, getting a little fidgety. And she said, do you want something? I said, no, just, it seemed like a good place to sit. I figured I wanted to get your perspective on what's going on, so I thought I'd sit with you. And she says, well, I have to get my piercings removed. She had a couple nose piercings and an eyebrow and a lip. And I said, okay, being who I am, does it hurt when you get that done? And well, yeah. And I said, so you got one done, why do you get more? He says, well, I kind of like the look. I think it's a good look. Okay. But I found out coming here, I have to have those removed, because part of the rules here are that you have to remove your piercings, if you're coming in, because, we kind of have a nice looking group of people. I said, do you think they don't look nice? He says, well, I like them, but, I understand. And those are the rules. I said, well, who made up the rules? He says, well, this person over here told me they had to be in. The person at registration said we'd have to do something. I said, well, do you just take them out? No, we have to go to the hospital and have a doctor remove them. It's okay. Who told you? Well, it's part of the rules. I said, oh, well, what if it wasn't part of the rules? Well, then I'd keep them. I said, would you feel comfortable being here with them? She said, yeah. I said, I think they're kind of cool. And it's a conversation starter. And I think that's important in this situation, to have something to start the conversation. Just, yeah, but the rules are I have to remove them. I said, yeah, but see, I make the rules, and I don't think you have to remove them. She said, you make the rules? I said, yeah. And I think we're going to have a rule that we're not going to remove them on you. So that was the beginning of that one. And we became friends and worked our way through the thing. And she every now and then would stop by to check on me. But she became a really great part of what was going on in the event. And it was just fun to see that happen. But she was reaching out. She was, doing something that she wanted to do. And we decided that we didn't feel that was right. And I thought, how wrong is that to have a youth leadership program where you've got a person who's stepping out of their comfort zone to do something they think's cool, and then tell them it's not? So we stopped that right away. So that was the beginning of that one.
And Scott, even before we go on to you sharing some tools, strategy, or wisdom, I want to, while I have you here, I want to ask you, like, in your own words, what do you believe is the value of youth leadership programs, youth leadership summits? Because we always have this conversation that you and I, we tend to know what the young people get out of it the most, right? What they get, but also us as adults and facilitators, we have so many magic moments over the years that we miss out on those as well when we're not doing them. But give maybe one or two, just in your perspective, what is the greatest value that comes from youth leadership programs in relation to what the young people get, that you believe that makes it that valuable for them? What's your perspective on that?
There's a lot of time on these things where we decide to get up on stage and preach, and we feel it's important that everybody hears our messages, and the real message that's given is caring. And it happens off the stage when we're sitting at lunch and we're sitting out in a field, or we're doing an activity, and we're right there with them. We're side by side and helping them and letting them know that somebody cares about them. Somebody is really interested in them and not in telling our story as to what we think they need to know. Some of my favorite stuff, Harry, that we do, these kids, after they go to the event, they come back, a year later or 2 years later, and they're just spectacular in what they've done and what they've created. And I think we have to give them the rope to go, with a safety net. We're there if you need us, but let them go and be creative and find out things, because we have ideas on what we think are great that they should be doing, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what happened in their school, in their life, in their family, with their girlfriend, with their boyfriend. We don't know what's going in their mind, what's a difficulty, what's something that they think is easy that we think is hard. And so when you let them have the freedom to go out and do whatever they think is right, oh my gosh, Harry, it's spectacular. And then they write books, and they make these videos, and they do their blogs and everything, and I'm just blown away by what happens. So I think a lot of it is us letting them do their thing. We give them tools. We definitely give them information. We give them great tools, but then stand back and watch the world take over, and they really make a difference. And that's what's exciting to me about it.
Yeah, and you know what? We don't often credit each other and all the other people that work in youth leadership programs enough, in the sense of knowing that, and being able to say thank you to you and other people just for believing in and caring in those young people. Just people talk about listening, but I always believe it's like, being present, showing that care, showing that compassion, exactly what you said. But those are the unspoken qualities, and the moment they feel that, it gives them that sense of purpose, and you sort of pass that torch. You light that flame, you spark that thing in their mind to go on and do it, and then we can get to see the magic. And over the years, Scott, you've been like sharing it on youth leadership programs about finance and managing wealth, and and same like even on our youth leadership programs. And this year when we run the virtual one, we're going to bring you in to talk about the usual stuff that you talk about, how you're serving and making a difference, how to start small and make it big, but just do something, right? Do like what you say, give more to the universe than what you're taking out of it, right? But just now, in this moment, today, in this episode, of all the things that you think are happening in the world right now and all the rest of it, if you could give some wisdom or a tool to the young people that are watching, or people who are serving young people, what would that be? And then we'll wrap up with like how people can follow you and all the rest of it. But go ahead. What would you like to share?
Well, first of all, you said something important there, and that's to change the world, start small. You don't start by saying, well, Scott Rankin started an orphanage with his wife, so I should do it also. It's a little tough to do, and it takes a lot of backing and a lot of you really have to fight to get it done. Start small. I think when I start talking at my things, I show the video of free hugs. How hard is it to go give somebody a hug? Okay, right at the moment, probably not so easy.
Especially
but in the past, you could give a hug. Now I guess you give an elbow bump or something like that. But Harry, what I think we've got to keep in mind right now is what we're being told. And what we're being told is to be afraid. The media is telling us to be afraid of each other. Don't hug each other. Don't go near each other. Stay 6 feet apart. Wear a mask. And some of these things I think are valid, but they're being put to us in fear. If you don't do it, this can happen. This can happen. And so there's a difference between fear and risk. Adding a company, or I'm starting a nonprofit, or I'm going out to donate to somebody, I do a level of risk that I'm comfortable with, that I can take. And here's the thing: when you take a risk to do something, you're going out on your own, and you're doing something that other people don't think of, or they don't think is smart, or they don't agree with you on, and you're taking a risk. And the difference with a risk is when I take a risk to do something, I know I'm going to find a solution to get through it. I know I'm going to find the solution. And that's why I can take what people think are ridiculous risks, because I know they're going to come out on top and I know I'm going to get through it. Sometimes it's just with myself, with my own thinking. Usually it's with that team around me. And that's the group of people that I surround myself with, that if I get in trouble, I know they're going to be there to help me get through this and make it better. Same thing as what these kids get into once we're done, with the youth programs. They go out and they take these risks that they can do because they're supported by the other people that are around them. But now, versus that to fear. Now, fear, think about fear. You do something, you ride a roller coaster and it, goes straight up and down and stuff, and you're either laughing or you're crying, and you're either closing your eyes or you keep them wide open, and you get this excitement in you, and it's invigorating. Whether you're afraid of this thing or you're having the best time of your life, you get this excitement that runs through your body. Well, so people take that fear and say, you say, well, if I get that feeling, it's really bad. I could hurt myself, or I could do something that no one else has done. And I better not do anything because I don't want that fear. However, if you've got that same feeling and it was just pure excitement, a friend of yours is winning at a soccer match, or you get a concert and it's just spectacular and you're jumping up and down and screaming and singing along, and you got that same energy, but you're looking at it as fun and excitement instead of fear.
Yeah.
So what I want you to talk or think about here is there's fear that's being put out to the universe right now. And you can either take that fear and stop it in your tracks, which is what most people do. 98% of people, once they hit a fear situation, they slow down.
Yeah.
I went too fast. I have to slow down. If you take risk, you move past that point and you say, wait a minute, everybody else made it to here. I think I can go a little bit further. I can take this to the next step on it. And so I really want people to hear that risk, while a lot of people associate risk with fear, most people take risks to get themselves ahead, to move past what they've been told and to do something that no one else did. Okay, let's face it. Who's the first guy that ate an egg? And what do you? I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna eat the first thing that drops out the butt of that chicken. That was a pretty good risk, and a lot of people had fear, but the other guy learned that eggs are pretty good. So in this situation, we're in a situation where everyone is hitting you with fear on the media constantly and telling you, don't do this, be afraid of this, don't hug your parents, don't hug your friends. And I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong in that, but what I'm saying is think about it. Is that fear helping you move forward, or is that fear holding you back from what you need to do in life? Take that risk. Just take that one step that's a little outside of your comfort zone and make it important to you, and know that you're smart enough to get through it. You're smart enough to make a solution that maybe no one's thought about, but you're going to get there. And then you're going to take the next risk that's a little bit further ahead, and the next risk and the next risk. And before you know it, you're going to own a spring company. So, watch out for that one. When you hit there, you've really gone way above. So
that's amazing, Scott. So many things pinging off in my mind as you were saying it, because it's, when we're talking about serving young people, we're actually serving young people who are transitioning and coming into, being grown-ups or adults, and we're just big kids that remember that when we were really small children, we took risks. That's what life was about, and we didn't fear the unknown. Like when you couldn't walk and you're like, shit, I'm gonna fall over. I'll fall over again, and I want to climb up that thing. I want to put that thing in my mouth. I want to touch that. You burn your hand, and then what's happened is, like you said, is there's a lot of fear from the people who've grown up, right? And putting that onto other people. Thank you for really sharing that sometimes just the words fear and risk create that in people, but to hear it from you where you manage it, you calculate and say, look, there's this fear, and then me being in a state of fear because of this, it starts to affect other things. And the byproduct of fear means you don't take risks in other areas. So, from someone who's taken lots of risk, both of us in that sense, it's like, yeah, but the key word is you said calculate, If it's not going to, as an investor, when we take risk, it's like, what are we willing to risk? That's sitting still or actually, tasting something else that we can. So thank you so much for that, Scott. But Scott, real quick, what's next for Scott, whether it's in the world of youth leadership, service leadership? Because I know you're constantly, people hear about the gift that keeps giving, but if you live by a mantra to keep giving more than you're taking, what's next for Scott Rankin? And for those of you that haven't realised, most of the amazing work that Scott does, he does it with Sharon Rankin. So maybe I should have had an extra circle and bring her in. But believe me, it's like I know how much you love and appreciate Sharon. So what's next for you and Sharon when it comes to the world of giving or anything?
Yeah, Harry, the next one is moving to education for kids through our theater, through the Philadelphia Zoo, which they have a program at the zoo that's called Zoo Crew, and it's getting youth through high school while working at the zoo, and then moving them into college, university, so that they can, with scholarships, etc. on that. But the big part of that, which is so much of what you do also, Harry, is having them mentor each other. And so we're creating a mentoring program because we've got to get out of the way. We've got to get out of the way. We have to train, and then you become the supervisor, and you stand back and you say, okay, this is going great. As a consultant to them, here's what might work. Try this. But we've got to let the youth mentor the youth. They tell the story better than we can. Your program is so good because you have the youth that has been through that program, and they're the next ones teaching from their perspective and from their interpretation of what you've taught. And so we're taking what's happening at the Walnut Street Theater, the Philadelphia Zoo, and we're letting these kids actually be the teachers. It's also happening at the Man Music Center, where Sharon is on the education committee there. She's the chairman of that committee. So everything that we're doing is towards steering the youth so that they can make a difference. And and Harry, with this whole fear and risk kind of thing, you can be controlled by fear. Somebody can control you by fear. Yeah. They can't control you by risk. That's on you. And that's why I think it's so important. So what's going to be great is in this within the next year, we're redoing programs at all these places in our area. But what's great about them is we're sharing them all over the world with other groups that are similar to us. So when you think about a theater, you don't think about education. You think about a theater putting on plays. Well, we're changing that to education. When you think about a zoo, it's keeping animals in their cages, hopefully, and not eating each other. No, we're doing education. We're teaching the zoos how to be education centers for where they are in their communities. Wow. And that's where I think it's going to be great, is what we're going to move with. Sharon is 100% on with me. She, we end up arguing about who's got the most important thing to do with helping youth, but it all comes down to just helping youth. 100%. Because we don't, at some point, I'm going to be really old and not remember what I said yesterday. So I have to take this time to make sure that we give the youth of the world the tools, everything that I've learned. I'm not holding anything back. I want them to know everything that I know and take it and modify it and use it so that it helps.
Wow. And Scott, there's a message come up from the foundation team here. It says, what an incredible vision to support young people gaining life experience while working at the zoo, and also peer mentoring. Adults need to support, but agree we do need to get out of the way. So, words of wisdom there. And believe it or not, if that wasn't another model and example of risk. Like, we've always been told never work with kids and animals. So you go, let's get a zoo, let's go and get a thing, let's go put a whole bunch of kids in there. Like, watch what happens, and then when it all goes wrong, like, we'll just look at each other and go, it was the kids, right? But it's so, Scott, as always, the difference here is we're restricted with that time limit, but I always value so much the time we spend together. And I know you've added value to the viewers here, but please do give us a shout on any of the links that people can follow in relation to the zoo, the theatre, or just Scott and Sharon. What do we do? Because we will add those links. Whatever you say, we'll add those links into the YouTube channel where people can see it. But how would you like people to be able to follow the journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. Since I've gone off Facebook recently, it was not helping me. It wasn't making me healthy anymore or happy. So I've gone off Facebook, but we'll figure out something. I've got some websites that they can follow me on, and there's always an actual email. I don't know if people use that. I don't want to be thrown off the site forever.
No, but the cool thing is Scott will probably reply to your emails if you send them. So what we'll do is we'll get some links of Scott and even the email if you want to put it on there, and it will be on the YouTube channel. But Scott, thank you so much for your time again, brother. I'm going to wrap it up now, and as always, keep doing what you're doing. Keep giving more than you're taking, and just know that you're making a difference, not just to young people, but to everybody around the world. So I really honor you, brother. Thank you for your time again. Right?
Well, thank you, Harry. And as always, we're brothers because we think the same, we act the same, we love what we do, and I cherish moments that we're together and being able to talk. So thank you.
100%. All right, brilliant. So we're going to wrap up the show like we always do, just to make sure that if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. If you've got any comments from watching this episode with Scott Rankin, leave a comment, but make sure you subscribe, like, share. And if you are subscribing, you won't just get the Empowering Youth show, you'll also be to get notifications when we have the Empowering Women show. And like always, there's the Instagram channel, there's the Facebook page, and then there is the website if you want to donate to any of the youth leadership programs that are taking place. And all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching the episode. I'll see you on another episode. But whatever you do right now, if you are someone that is an amazing young person that is a role model for others, or you're an adult that's serving young people and empowering youth, we're here to serve you, and we really, really see you on another episode.